I feel like it's kismet to go after Tiffany's presentation, because I'm going to talk about some of those skills that we need to build in order to stay relevant. So my name is Jennifer McCool, and I'm going to talk to you about all the things data literacy and ethics-wise. I have a lot of certifications. I got some skills. I have 10 years of experience in compliance. That includes finance compliance, tech ethics. I created my title because unicorn wasn't allowed, I was told. So compliance, privacy, and operations consultant, that means I will write your policies, I will do the things for you, I will tell you how to be more efficient, I will help you with your data privacy. What I didn't put on here is that I'm also part of a group that recently tried to get a data privacy law passed in Arkansas. We failed by 1 vote. So my new thing is to make everyone I meet a data privacy champion. And if you know me or you used to work at JB Hunt, then you know that I actually created a privacy champion program at JB Hunt. So my goal is just to do that for the entire world now. Literally everybody I meet. Because our data is literally in question right now at every level. So let's talk about the basics here. What is data? You can find as many definitions of data as there are websites to put them on. If you Googled it, it would drive you insane, or at least it did me. So for today's purposes, it's a collection of facts, information, and statistics in various forms: text, numbers, sound, images, voice, biometrics. And I added the caveat about an individual, because that's what we're talking about, right? Individuals' data. So what does data literacy mean? Normally up until now, I talk about data privacy and I talk about data literacy in terms of being able to recognize data, which is its own problem. We still don't have people who recognize data as data. They don't think our Slack conversations, our emails with attachments that we send to ourselves at home count, and they do. Any data about an individual. So data literacy is the ability to extrapolate from that data and get your analysis, right? Why is that important to us? Well, Gartner had a little bit better of an explanation. It's really how is it constructed? Where did it come from? Where is it going? Or as I like to say, where did it come from? No? Too early? Okay. That's fine. That's fine. How can we analyze and interpret it? And then how can we act on the data? I'm going to add emphatically, how can we act ethically on the data? Ethically should be in every sentence, preface with data. Ethically, data. Ethically, data. Say it with me. Ethically, data. All right. Now that we're on the same page. So there are actually skills needed for data literacy. And I love this list. It came from TechTarget. They had it separated into technical and non-technical, and I disagree with that entirely. All of these should be held by either the tech or the business side. If you deal with data, you should have these skills. And I'm going to hold firm on it because this list sets us up for a nice discussion on ethics. So let's go through them. Data analysis. Duh, like that should be at the top of the list, right? So then understanding the tools and methods and where to use them. The reason this is important is because if you are not using the proper tools for the data that you have and the analysis that you want to complete, then it's irrelevant. You cannot just pick the most new shiny tool to use on your data because it's a new shiny tool. You know what that makes? That makes you the tool, right? Because you don't care about the data itself. You care about the new shiny tool. And let's be honest, it's bullshit. If you are not using something that can be used by everybody, you are going to miss that translation period. You are going to miss your opportunities to communicate properly and tell a story. So, then we go on to interpreting data visualizations. Yes, I have messed this word up so many times. So graphs, charts, dashboards, and their underlying data source. If you don't know where your data came from, if you don't know what purpose it was collected for, you're already behind. You are already out of the game and you haven't even used it yet. So it has to be an important part. And then programming languages, I really don't think that's necessary anymore. There are so many low-code or no-code tools that can be used. If you have skills in programming, great, use them. But I don't think that eliminates you from the conversation if you don't. I think you have to make a little bit extra effort, and that's it. So, develop domain knowledge through industry-wide research. You should have that. That should just be your job. To understand that the industry that you're in, the domain that you're in, how it uses data, what is important for the data to tell story-wise, you should know that regardless of data literacy, right? But perform research into the business context surrounding it. Now we're getting to the side that Tiffany was talking about early. So if you want to be on the tech side and you want to understand what you're supposed to deliver to the business, you have to understand the context in which that data is going to be used for more than one reason. So if you don't understand the context, then you don't know what data you need, you don't know how to use it, you don't know what permissions you should get, and you can suffer data overload. Now, gone are the days where you could just collect all the data in a carefree manner and throw it over your shoulder and we're just going to collect all the data we want and we'll store it forever and we'll use it one day. You can't do that. You shouldn't have back then, but we didn't know any better. The next one is the next two are my favorites. So knowing what data is appropriate to use for a particular purpose. And the reason we talk about this is because purpose limitation is a core principle of data privacy, privacy by design. It is the core of a lot of these laws that are being created. You must have a purpose for your data and you must use it for that purpose and only that purpose. And that is where AI becomes a problem. Because the lack of control or monitoring does not allow normally for us to continue that, or so they say. That can't be your excuse. The next one, critical thinking. I love this one. I think critical thinking is very important in all things in life, but we really need to think critically about the information. And you need to be asking questions like, is the data quality acceptable? Is your data governance program acceptable? Have you identified the biases? You should question assumptions. You know that old saying, when you assume, you make, well, my dad used to say, when you assume, it makes you an asshole. But it does, actually. He's not wrong. Critically thinking about the data is necessary for practical insights that matter. There was an article in Forbes that said data integrity is a scientific necessity and an ethical must. Just think about that. Scientific necessity and an ethical must. You must start with data that has integrity, that you know where it comes from, that you know what you're supposed to do with it or allowed to do with it, and continue from there. The last one, Tiffany really covered this morning, communication. Not only should you be able to communicate, but you should be able to tell the story, you should be able to tell the risks, you should be able to tell reasonable clarity what some of the potential outcomes are. You should be communicating in a way that everybody walks away understanding the same thing. So we have all these skills, right? Well, no. Most people don't. Most people have a gap in their skill set. A lot of people don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to bridge that gap between the sides. They don't know how to be an interpreter. They don't know how to be a better communicator, but also a unique communicator. This is not normal stuff, right? So we need to make sure that we are focusing on communication, but some people just don't have that skill set. There's also a lack of understanding. So if you don't know about your industry, or you don't know about your domain, or you don't understand your data or business purpose, then you aren't going to understand what data needs to be collected or used, and then you're going to have data overload. You're going to go ahead and keep putting that in your analysis, and then you're going to overload your customer. It really doesn't help anybody. Employee resistance. Everybody hates change. I don't know if you saw, but one of my skills is productivity. I am certified in team productivity, workplace productivity. Everybody hates change. And they hate the change maker. Okay, you just got to get over it. Because what it actually is, a lot of times, is that they don't have confidence in their own skills. Or they don't think they can learn a new skill. It's not that they actually hate change. They're afraid they'll be left behind. Address that. That is a very easy thing to work on. We heard about having mentors and coaches. There are ways to do that, but you have to make it happen. And all of that leads to champions. So I told you I created a program at J.B. Hunt for data literacy and cybersecurity. You have to, thank you so much. You have to have a champion program in your company. You have to have people all across the organization, both horizontally and vertically, that will champion privacy, that will champion data literacy, that understand it and can move that information forward. If your organization's too small, then think in smaller. Knowledge transfer sessions, lunch and learns, whatever you can do to make that happen, it's the only way we're ever going to be able to make sure that data literacy spreads. We need it to be like a fungus, poison ivy, something, right? We need that to happen. Data governance. Tiffany did a fantastic job this morning. If you got a crap data governance program, none of this matters. You can't even trust the quality of the data. But what's even worse is when you have a great data governance program and no tools or resources to use it. It just doesn't help. And it doesn't help if you have the proper skill set and this is not established. And then finally, inadequate data privacy knowledge. I'm a data privacy nerd, so this one I think should have been at the top, but whatever. So if you know anything about data privacy, or if you've heard me talk before, because I'll literally talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere, then you know there are state-by-state regulations, there are sectoral regulations, children's data, health data, banking, financial, Driver's Privacy Protection Act. I talked about that at my last meetup at Goat Lab and told the story. We didn't even get that till somebody died. Somebody had to die for us to get driver's protection. And that is bullshit. Like, that shouldn't have to happen. We shouldn't have to have something happen that is a catalyst for these rules. So, let's talk about ethics. Companies with ethics understand several things. But let's just talk about people in general. We, as a people, are notorious for using something without understanding all of the problems it could bring. Let's talk about the car. The first car had no seatbelts, no roads, no traffic laws. You just Godspeed. You just got in it and, like, think about that. Now magnify that as AI. There are no seatbelts. There's a moratorium being proposed on 10 years with no AI regulations. There's no traffic laws. Like, we can't rely, and technology has fallen behind when laws and rules are put in place in general. Our legislatures don't have the appropriate knowledge. They listen to the wrong people. That happens. Why do I care about ethics? Because we can't wait for somebody to tell us what the right thing to do is, right? We have to understand. We have to understand that the stakes are higher and that you have to be a good steward. So when we were speaking before the Senate committee, one of my colleagues said that when you see a company that asks if you want to decline or opt out, all that kind of stuff, even though you live in Arkansas and there is no law, that is a good data steward. They're not segregating their data. They're not telling you how to, okay, you can only do it if you're in this state because they have a law. Now, some companies do think that's valuable. I would not classify them as good data stewards. And let's be honest, we know a bunch of them. They're in the news all the time. Facebook is getting fined nonstop. When you have that much money, apparently it doesn't matter. I don't know. A company with data ethics will understand that they have a moral obligation to gathering, protecting, and using people's data, and that it can impact them negatively. They understand that from the beginning, and they protect that data as if it were their own. I once had a product owner tell me, but it's my data. No, it's not. It's someone's data, and you get the privilege of using it. Yeah. And once you make that transition and use the words, but it's my data, you have lost all sight of what that data means and where it came from. It belongs to a human being. And if you misuse it, if you don't protect it, it's gone. Let's talk about biometrics for just a second. That is a one-time shot. I think it is a terrible place to go instead of passwords. Once you lose your fingerprint, it's gone. Once you've lost your eye, now I'm totally blanking. Once you lose your eyeballs.
Retinal scan.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You know what I mean? Like it's a one shot, and we don't regulate it properly, or frankly, hardly at all. So companies with good data ethics evaluate those practices, and they take into account that there is an adverse effect possible to society itself. How many of these breaches that you see on the news are small? We hit 5 people. No. We hit everybody in the company. How many people are in your company?
580,000.
So, this slide originally was, so what do we do? I can't tell you that. I used to try, but there are too many different setups. There are too many silos within a company that all I can do is give you this information, tell you how important it is, hopefully make you realize, and then you take it back and implement it in your company. So what I will do is tell you what the top ethical problems for 2025 are according to the Global Technology Industry Association. So this top line, everything I've been talking about, right? So we got a law sort of addressing deep fakes, but we realized how important misinformation is, how popular it seems to be, right? What do you think the moratorium will be on 10 years worth of AI regulation? What do you think that's going to do to this? Well, it's going to make it so that nobody has to accept responsibility, right? Well, the other problem with that is the fact that controllers and processors try to point the finger at each other. And the real truth that nobody wants to say is, all y'all responsible. It's everybody's fucking job. Sorry. Preach. So autonomous data has its own problem. And I will also say part of this concern for me is that certain aspects of data are not regulated. So if you're using a health app or a walking tracker, or I use the example of I wanted some LGBTQ plus 1 shots to put in my body to lose weight, they made me join a program. The program's online, they want me to hook up like all my health apps to it. No, I don't want to. Because that is not regulated as health data. Think about all the data that goes into it. The example that I will tell you about that is my favorite. It's from Weight Watchers. They developed an app for teens that your avatar was like a little fruit or a vegetable. It collected all this data about you, but they didn't bother verifying that you were 13 or older. They just collected that data. So if you lied, so they got caught, of course, and they got fined $1.5 million. That is not a large amount, comparatively speaking. For Weight Watchers, it is. Let me just preface that. But if you're Google or Amazon, but they had to delete all of the data and the models that they used. Who thinks that's a bigger monetary punishment?
Big time.
Right? Think about the time, the effort, the data, and they're gonna come back and check because it's the Federal Trade Commission. They're gonna be looking at you for years. So it is really everybody's responsibility to bring this up. AI facial recognition is also a problem, right? We know it has problems. Without regulation, it's going to grow unmanned. And honestly, when we talk about autonomous technology, I immediately go to the self-driving car like, yes, I would love my car to just drive me to work, right? Do we really want to just put something together unchecked? As much as we want business to be self-service, there has to be a human in charge. There has to be somebody with an ethical mind that can evaluate it. It never can be. Now, I will say it's not just for autonomous data. Patents need a human being to be involved. Think about those kinds of things. Show of hands, who has seen the movie Sneakers?
That has been a long time.
Yes. Okay, fantastic movie, right? Oh, that's not very clear. This movie came out in 1992. It is a gem. River Phoenix is like 10. But they talk about the fact that the world is not run by weapons or money or power. It's data. And that was in 1992. Where do you think we are now? Thank you.